You walk into a room, and within 3 seconds, the verdict is already in. Guilty, not of a crime. Guilty of looking like you don't belong. Before you speak, before you demonstrate competence, before you offer value, the sentence has been passed. The judge? Everyone who saw you. The evidence? A worn jacket, scuffed shoes, the way you hold yourself, the hesitation in your walk. This is not about fairness. This is not about giving people a chance. This is about the harsh reality that human beings are wired to assess threat, status, and value in milliseconds. And if you look poor, you've already lost the game before the first move. Most people will never admit this out loud. They'll hide behind politeness and pretend they don't judge. But watch their eyes. Watch where they direct their attention, their warmth, their opportunities. Watch who gets listened to in meetings and who gets ignored. Watch who gets trusted with responsibility and who gets sidelined. The pattern is unmistakable. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago when he wrote that men judge by the eye rather than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. Here's what he meant. Everyone can see what you appear to be. Few get close enough to discover what you really are. And if your appearance screams poverty, struggle, or desperation, they never will. You could be brilliant, hard-working, loyal, strategic, talented beyond measure. None of it matters if your exterior signals weakness, because people don't invest time in discovering hidden value. They make snap judgments and move on. The world is too fast, too competitive, too flooded with options to give second chances to those who failed the first impression test. This isn't personal, it's primal. Deep in the human brain, there's an ancient mechanism that sorts people into categories within seconds. Safe or dangerous. High status or low status. Winner or loser. Useful or disposable. And poverty, even the appearance of it, triggers every alarm that says, stay away, don't invest, don't trust, don't respect. Think about the last time you needed something important, maybe a loan, maybe a job, maybe just basic respect from a stranger. Now think about how you showed up. Were you groomed? Was your posture strong? Did your clothes fit well, look clean, and remain well maintained? Or were there visible signs of struggle, a stain you didn't notice, shoes that should have been replaced months ago, the tired energy of someone who's been beaten down? If you looked poor, you felt the shift, the subtle coldness, the skepticism, the hurried conversations, the promises that never materialized. And you probably blamed yourself, thought you said something wrong, thought you needed better credentials or more experience. But the truth is darker. They decided before you opened your mouth. Be honest. Have you felt this judgment before? Drop it in the comments if this is hitting close. Now here's what most people don't understand. The world pretends poverty is about money. It's not about money. Money is just the symptom. Poverty is a signal. It's a frequency you broadcast that tells everyone around you exactly where you stand in the hierarchy. And hierarchies are ruthless. They're designed to sort winners from losers. And once you're marked as a loser, everything organizes itself to keep you there. Here's what nobody tells you. Poverty isn't just the absence of resources. It's the presence of specific behaviors, postures, and habits that communicate scarcity. And human beings are hardwired to detect scarcity the way sharks detect blood in water. They smell it, they sense it, and they respond accordingly. It shows up in how you move, rushed, uncertain, apologetic. It shows up in how you speak. Too much explanation, too much justification, too much needs to leak through every word. It shows up in your maintenance, neglected details. Things are left unfixed because you're always in survival mode, never in optimization mode. And here's the biological truth that destroys the fairness myth. Humans evolved in tribes where resources were scarce and survival depended on aligning with the strong. Backing the weak meant risking your own survival. So we developed incredibly sensitive radar for detecting weakness. It's not conscious, it's not malicious, it's automatic, and it's merciless. When you look at or person, you trigger ancient avoidance mechanisms. People don't think, this person appears to be struggling financially, perhaps I should help. They think, on a subconscious level, this person is losing the game. Association with them could lower my status. I need to create distance. It happens in a fraction of a second. No deliberation, no moral consideration. Pure biological calculus. This is why poverty clusters, why the poor tend to know only other poor people. Why do opportunities dry up? Why do doors close? Not because of some grand conspiracy, but because of a million tiny automatic rejections that compound into systemic exclusion. You become invisible. And when you are visible, you're marked as someone to exploit rather than invest in. Watch how differently the same person gets treated when they show up in worn clothes versus a sharp, well-maintained appearance. Same face, same voice, same skills, completely different reactions. In the first scenario, people are guarded, dismissive, transactional. In the second, they're open, curious, and generous. The only variable is the signal being sent. The harsh truth is that poverty makes you prey. In nature, predators target the weak, the limping gazelle, the isolated buffalo, the sick wolf, and human hierarchies work same way. People with power and resources instinctively move toward those who already have, and away from those who don't. It's not fair, it's physics. But here's where it gets darker. The signal of poverty isn't just external, it rewires how you see yourself. When the world treats you like you're worthless, you start to believe it. Your posture collapses, your voice weakens, you develop habits of apology and self-diminishment. And these habits intensify the very signal that's causing the problem. It becomes a death spiral. Machiavelli knew that perception creates reality. The appearance of power is often more important than actual power. If you can control how others see you, you control how they treat you. And if you look poor, you've surrendered that control. You've handed everyone permission to treat you as disposable. The moment you understand this, everything changes. Because if poverty is a signal, then wealth is a signal too. And signals can be controlled, manufactured, and projected. This is where the mask comes in. The mask isn't about deception, it's about strategy. It's about understanding that humans respond to surfaces first and substance later, if ever. So if you want to be treated with respect, opportunity, and trust, you must first look like someone worthy of those things. The mask precedes the man. The appearance precedes the opportunity. Machiavelli wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. This isn't cynicism, it's tactical intelligence. He understood that in a world where judgment happens in seconds, you must win the visual battlefield before anything else matters. The substance of your character, your skills, your integrity, all irrelevant if you never get past the first 3 seconds. Think of the mask as armor, not armor that protects you from physical harm, but armor that protects you from social dismissal. When you look sharp, maintained, put together, you create a force field that changes how people approach you. They assume competence, they assume resources, they assume you're someone who matters. And in assuming these things, they treat you accordingly, which creates opportunities that confirm their assumptions. This is the dark magic of appearance. It bends reality. A person who looks wealthy gets offered better deals, better terms, better access, even when they have the same net worth as someone who looks poor. The mask doesn't lie about what's underneath. It simply forces people to engage long enough to discover it. Without the mask, they never get close enough to find out what you're capable of. Look at anyone who has risen from nothing. They understood this principle instinctively or learned it brutally. They knew they had to look the part before they could play the part. They invested in appearance even when it seemed irrational, because they understood that looking poor closes doors that talent alone can never reopen. This is why broke people who dress well get further than broke people who dress broke. Same bank account, different signal. And the signal determines everything. It determines who talks to you at events, who returns your emails, who takes your call, who considers your pitch, who gives you the benefit of the doubt. The mask is not optional if you want power, it's the entry fee. And here's the beautiful brutality of it. The mask doesn't require enormous resources. It requires discipline, attention, and strategic allocation. You don't need designer brands. You need clean, fitted, maintained clothes. You don't need expensive grooming. You need consistent grooming. You don't need luxury accessories. You need your details handled. Most people who look poor aren't broke. They're undisciplined. They've let standards slip. They've accepted neg. Lect as normal. A wrinkled shirt, dirty shoes, unkempt hair. These aren't signs of poverty. They're signs of surrender. And surrender is what people smell when they evaluate you in those first 3 seconds. The mask is a declaration. It says, I respect myself enough to maintain standards. It says, I'm competing and I refuse to broadcast weakness. It says, I understand the game and I'm playing to win. And when you wear that mask consistently, something shifts. Not just in how others see you, in how you see yourself. Because here's what happens when you start showing up sharp. You walk differently. You speak differently. You make eye contact differently. The external discipline creates internal transformation. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking in rooms. You stop accepting scraps. The mask doesn't just change perception, it changes identity. But there's a trap here that most people fall into. They think the mask is expensive. It doesn't mean expensive. It means intentional. A $200 suit that fits well and is maintained beats a $1,000 suit that's wrinkled and neglected. A $10 haircut done regularly beats a $70 haircut done once every 4 months. The mask isn't about cost. It's about consistency and care. Machiavelli would tell you that the appearance of power is your first and most important weapon. Because power is performative, people grant you power when they believe you already have it, and they believe you have it when you look like you do. This is the loop you must enter. Look powerful, get treated as powerful, and gain actual power, which reinforces the look. But you must take the first step. Nobody hands it to you. Now, let's go deeper into the mechanism that makes this work, because understanding the psychology will give you leverage. There's a cognitive bias called the horn effect, and it's destroying why. Oh, if you look poor. Here's how it works. When people spot one negative trait, their brain automatically assumes other negative traits cluster around it. One visible flaw poisons the entire perception. Scuffed shoes don't just signal you can't afford new shoes. They signal carelessness, low standards, lack of attention to detail, poor time management, and low status. Your brain doesn't consciously think through this chain. It happens automatically in milliseconds. One negative visual cue triggers an avalanche of negative assumptions. Slumped posture doesn't just mean you're tired. It signals defeat, low confidence, lack of authority, someone who's been beaten by life, someone not worth respecting. Again, this isn't conscious. It's biological pattern recognition that evolved to help humans quickly assess who to follow and who to ignore in tribal settings. Cheap, poorly maintained clothing doesn't just mean you lack money. It signals you lack discipline, self-respect, awareness, and standards. It marks you as someone who has given up, someone who isn't competing, someone who doesn't understand the rules of social combat. The horn effect is why one detail can destroy you. You could be articulate, educated, skilled, and strategic, but if your shoes are falling apart, that single detail overwrites everything else. The brain uses shortcuts. It can't evaluate every dimension of a person, so it uses visible markers as proxies. And if those markers signal low status, the brain fills in the rest of the picture with matching assumptions. This is brutal but useful once you understand it, because the horn effect works in reverse too. It's called the halo effect. When people spot one positive trait, they automatically assume other positive traits cluster around it. Clean, sharp appearance signals competence, discipline, attention to detail, high standards, and success. and sudden. You're granted intelligence, trustworthiness, and authority you haven't proven yet. The same person evaluated twice, once dressed poorly and once dressed well, gets radically different assessments across every dimension. Same skills, same words, same personality, but in the sharp clothing, they're perceived as more intelligent, more capable, more trustworthy, more hireable, more promotable. The horn and halo effects are cognitive distortions, but they're universal cognitive distortions, which means you must account for them. So what does this mean tactically? It means every visible detail is either a liability or an asset. There's no neutral ground. Cracked phone screen. That's a liability. Bitten nails. Another one. Wrinkled collar. Strikes against you. Cheap worn bag. Same problem. Each one triggers the horn effect, and the effects stack. But clean shoes? That's an asset. Good posture? Major asset. Maintained grooming? Another win. Fitted clothes? Powerful signal. These trigger the halo effect, and these stack too. The gap between someone who handles the details and someone who doesn't is enormous, not because the details matter intrinsically, but because they trigger completely different cognitive cascades in observers. Most people who complain about being judged unfairly are broadcasting 10 negative signals and wondering why they're not getting opportunities. They're not being judged unfairly, they're being judged automatically, which is harsher than unfairness because there's no appeal process. The brain makes the assessment and moves on. Here's the empowering flip. You can weaponize this. If you're starting from the bottom, if you have no credentials, no network, no resources, you can still trigger the halo effect through appearance alone. This is the zero-cost power move. Before you have accomplishments to point to, you can look like someone who accomplishes things. Before you have status, you can look like someone who has status. And that look will open doors that reveal pathways to actual status. The key is ruthless elimination of negative signals, not adding expensive positive signals, but removing the cheap negative ones. Fix your posture, clean your shoes, maintain your grooming, ensure your clothes fit, handle the details. These cost almost nothing, but they remove the triggers that activate the horn effect. Once those triggers are gone, people stop automatically dismissing you. Then you add intentional positive signals, good eye contact, calm, measured speech, confident movement, strategic silence instead of nervous filling of space. These manufacture the perception of authority and competence even when you're still building actual authority and competence. You're hacking the cognitive shortcut system that humans use to evaluate status. And here's the darkest part. Once people grant you the halo effect, they become invested in that perception being true. They interpret your actions generously. They fill gaps in your story with positive assumptions. They want to believe you're as competent as you look because it validates their initial judgment. The halo effect becomes self-reinforcing, but the horn effect is self-reinforcing too. Look poor, and people assuming competence, which leads them to exclude you from opportunities, which keeps you poor, which reinforces the look. The death spiral. This is why breaking the signal is the first and most critical move, not accumulating resources, breaking the signal, because the signal determines whether resources ever flow toward you. Machiavelli understood that fortune is the arbiter of half of our actions, but she leaves the other half to be governed by us. You can't control your starting conditions, but you can control the signals you send. And those signals determine which doors open and which stay closed. If you're sending poverty signals, you're actively blocking your own advancement and blaming circumstances that you're manufacturing. The uncomfortable truth is that most poverty isn't just financial, it's behavioral. It's the compounding effect of 1,000 small surrenders. Each time you walk out of the house without handling the details, you retelling the world you don't respect yourself enough to compete. And the world believes you. Now here's the paradox that breaks most people. The ones who need resources the most are treated as if they deserve them the least, and the ones who need them least are showered with them. This isn't injustice. This is a mechanism. Money chases image. Resources flow toward those who already look resourced. Opportunities gravitate toward those who look like they don't need them. Doors open for those who appear to have already walked through many doors. This is the brutal economics of perception. Banks loan money to people who can prove they don't need the loan. Investors fund people who look like they're already winning. Employers hire people who seem like they have options. Everyone wants to back the winner, which means looking like a winner is the prerequisite to becoming one. The appearance must precede the reality. This is why broke people who maintain the appearance of success rise faster than broke people who look broke. Same bank account, different signal, and the signal determines flow. Flow of opportunities, connections, deals, trust, credibility, and access. All of it moves toward those who look like they already have it, and away from those who look desperate for it. Desperation repels resources. This is the core paradox. The more you need something, the more your need pushes it away. Need screams from every pore when you look poor. It's in your voice, your posture, your eagerness, your OV. Explaining. And that need makes people uncomfortable because it implies obligation, risk, and the possibility of being pulled down. When you look wealthy, put together, and maintained, you signal abundance. And abundance attracts. People want to be near it. They want to partner with it. They want to invest in it. Not because they're good people, but because abundance signals low risk and high return. Association with abundance raises status. Association with scarcity lowers it. So people unconsciously move toward the former and away from the latter. This is why networking advice that says, just show up and be yourself, is catastrophic for people who look poor. Because of yourself, if you look poor, it triggers avoidance. The version of yourself that looks maintained, confident, and put together gets invited into conversations. The version that looks desperate gets politely sidelined. Same person, different signal, completely different outcomes. Watch how investors evaluate pitches. Two founders with identical businesses. One looks sharp, maintained, and confident. One looks disheveled, uncertain, struggling. The sharp one gets follow-up meetings. The struggling one gets a polite no. The difference isn't the business model, it's the signal. Because investors aren't just funding businesses, they're funding people. And they fund people who look like winners because winners attract more opportunities, which increases the odds of return. Watch how employers evaluate candidates. Two people with identical resumes. One walks in looking polished, moves with confidence, and speaks with calm authority. One walks in looking rough, slouches, and over-explains everything. The polished one gets the offer. The rough one gets the rejection email. The difference isn't skills, it's the signal. Because employers aren't just hiring for skills, they're hiring people who will represent the company, and representation requires looking the part. The harsh reality is that the world is not designed to give chances to people who look like they're struggling. It's designed to give chances to people who look like they're already succeeding. Because success is social proof, it's risk mitigation, it's validation that you know how to play the game, and the fastest way to signal success is to look successful. This is why people who invest in their appearance, even when broke, often escape poverty faster than people who save every penny and neglect their image. The ones who invest in the signal attract flow. The ones who hoard resources in scarcity mode stay stuck in the pattern that keeps resources away. If this hit uncomfortably close, type "I see it now" in the comments. Now we need to talk about why looking poor removes all deterrence and makes you a target. In nature, predators hunt the weak. The lion doesn't chase the strong, healthy zebra. It identifies the one with a limp, the one lagging, the one that signals vulnerability. And once that signal is detected, the hunt begins. Human hierarchies operate on the same principle. When you look poor, you look like prey. You've removed deterrence. Deterrence is what keeps predators at bay. It's the signal that says attacking me is costly, not worth it, and dangerous. But when you look poor, you signal the opposite. You signal that you're easy, that you won't fight back, that exploiting you is low risk and possibly rewarding. This is why looking poor invites mistreatment. Scams target people who look desperate. Manipulators target people who look weak. Employers lowball people who look like they have no options. Merchants overcharge people who look like they don't know better. None of this is conscious conspiracy. It's opportunistic predation based on signal detection. In wolf packs, injured wolves are often killed by their own pack, not out of cruelty, but out of biological efficiency. A weak member is a liability. It slows the pack down. It consumes resources without contributing. So the pack eliminates it. Human hierarchies are more subtle but not fundamentally different. When you signal weakness, people instinctively move to exclude or exploit you because association with weakness is costly. In corporate environments, people who look poor or weak get sidelined. They don't get promoted. They get blamed when things go wrong. They get assigned the worst tasks. They get excluded from key meetings, not because of actual performance, but because they signal low status, and low status makes them safe targets when scapegoats are needed. In social dynamics, people who look poor get disrespected. Their ideas get ignored. Their boundaries get violated. Their time gets wasted. Because looking poor signals you lack options, and people without options tolerate mistreatment. So the mistreatment continues and escalates. The predator-prey dynamic is ancient and automatic. When you broadcast weakness, you activate predatory instincts in people who otherwise might be neutral or even helpful. It's not that they're bad people. It's that you've triggered a biological script that says this person is exploitable. And once that script runs, behavior follows. This is why victims of con artists often share specific traits. They look uncertain. They look needy. They look isolated. They look like people who won't cause problems if exploited. Con artists don't target everyone. They target people who broadcast these signals because the signals promise easy exploitation. This is why employees who look weak get stuck in terrible positions. Abusive managers don't abuse everyone. They abuse people who look like they'll take it. People who look beaten down. People who apologize for existing. People whose body lan. Wage says, "Please don't hurt me." That signal is an invitation. And here's the mechanism that keeps people trapped. When you get preyed upon, it reinforces the weakness signal. You become more hesitant, more apologetic, more collapsed in posture, which invites more predation. This reinforces the signal further. It's a feedback loop that doesn't break until you break the signal. The way you break it is by manufacturing deterrence. Even if you don't feel strong, you must look strong. Even if you don't feel confident, you must project confidence. Even if you're uncertain, you must move with certainty. Because deterrence is performative. It's not about what you feel inside. It's about what you project outside. Stand tall, make eye contact, speak clearly without apology, dress sharply, move deliberately. These are deterrence signals. They tell potential predators that you're not easy prey, that exploitation will be costly, that you know your worth and will defend it. And most predators, like most predators in nature, will simply move on to easier targets. This is why learning to look powerful is a survival skill, not a vanity project. It's the difference between being targeted and being left alone, between being exploited and being respected, between being prey and being left to build in peace. Machiavelli wrote that since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. He wasn't advocating cruelty. He was describing reality. If you want to be left alone to build, to rise, to succeed, you must be someone people hesitate to cross. And that starts with looking like someone not to be crossed. When you look poor, you look harmless. And harmless gets eaten. When you look sharp, maintained, confident, and angry in the sense of costly to cross, people recalibrate. They treat you with caution, with respect. They don't. Test your boundaries because you look like someone who enforces boundaries. The look creates the space you need to operate. This shift from prey to predator, from victim to someone with agency, happens largely through signal control. You don't need to become aggressive. You need to remove the signals of vulnerability and replace them with signals of strength. And those signals are mostly visual and postural. How you dress, how do you stand, how you move through space, how you hold eye contact, how you speak without apologizing. These are learned skills, not innate traits. Anyone can develop them. But most people don't because they don't understand the stakes. They think appearance is superficial. It's not superficial. It's strategic communication. It's the language of power. And if you're not fluent in it, you're showing weakness in every interaction. Now we get to something most people miss entirely, and it's one of the most powerful signals you can control. Silence. Poor people talk too much. They over-explain, they justify, they fill every pause with nervous chatter. They volunteer information nobody asked for. They apologize when no apology is needed. And all of this broadcasts scarcity, scarcity of confidence, scarcity of power, scarcity of status. Wealthy people, powerful people, people with options, they use silence as a weapon. They pause before answering. They let gaps exist in conversation. They don't feel compelled to fill space with noise because silence communicates abundance. It says, I'm comfortable. I don't need to convince you. I don't need your approval. I'm fine with you forming your own conclusions. When you talk too much, you signal insecurity. You signal that you're trying to control the narrative because you're afraid of being misunderstood or dismissed. You signal that you lack confidence in your value, so you're manufacturing justification. People feel this desperation, and desperation repels. When you use strategic silence, you signal the opposite. You signal that you're secure in your position, that you trust your presence speaks for itself, that you're not performing for approval. And this creates intrigue and respect. People lean in. They pay closer attention. They grant you authority they wouldn't grant to someone babbling nervously. Think about the person in a meeting who talks constantly versus the person who speaks rarely, but with precision. Who gets remembered? Who gets quoted later? Who gets listened to when they finally speak? The silent one. Because scarcity creates value. When your words are rare, they carry weight. When you speak constantly, your words become noise. This principle applies to everything. How much do you share on social media? How much personal information do you volunteer? How much do you explain your decisions? Poor people share everything. They broadcast their struggles, their doubts, their plans, their feelings. They turn their lives into public performances because they're seeking validation, attentio sympathy and connection. Wealthy people, powerful people, they practice strategic opacity. They share selectively. They maintain mystery. They let people wonder. They understand that overexposure diminishes value and that privacy creates mystique. You can't be predictable and intriguing at the same time. You can't be an open book and maintain leverage. When you overshare, you give people ammunition. You reveal vulnerabilities. You create openings for manipulation. You make yourself knowable, and knowable means exploitable. Every detail you volunteer is a data point someone can use to assess, judge, categorize, and potentially manipulate you. When you practice strategic silence, you maintain leverage. People don't know your full situation. They don't know your weaknesses. They don't know your desperation level. So they can't exploit these things. They have to engage with you as an unknown quantity, which forces them to offer better terms, show more respect, and avoid exploitation. This is why negotiators who speak less win more. The person who speaks first in a negotiation usually loses. The person who fills silence with concessions loses. The person who reveals their position, their constraints, their desperation loses. Silence forces the other party to reveal itself. It creates pressure. It causes discomfort that they feel compelled to resolve by offering more. In everyday interactions, this translates to not explaining yourself unless necessary, not justifying your decisions, not volunteering your struggles, not apologizing unless you've actually wronged someone, not filling awkward pauses with chatter, just being comfortable with space, with mystery, with letting people draw their own conclusions. This feels uncomfortable at first because poor people are trained to apologize for existing, to explain themselves, to seek permission, to avoid taking up space. Breaking this pattern requires conscious effort. It requires catching yourself before you over-explain, before you apologize unnecessarily, before you volunteer information that wasn't requested. But once you master this, the shift in how people treat you is immediate. They stop seeing you as someone who needs validation. They start seeing you as someone who has authority. Authority doesn't explain. Authority states. Authority doesn't apologize. Authority acts. Authority doesn't seek approval. Authority operates with or without it. Machiavelli understood that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Here's what that means. Most people are reactive. They respond to the frame you present. If you present yourself as uncertain and approval-seeking through excessive talking, they treat you as subordinate. If you present yourself as certain and self-contained through strategic silence, they treat you as superior. The beautiful part is that this costs nothing. You don't need money to stop talking. You don't need resources to practice pausing before you respond. You don't need status to stop oversharing. You just need discipline. And that discipline manufactures the perception of status, which eventually attracts actual status. Silence is the zero-cost status signal. Use it. Now let's get ruthlessly tactical, because philosophy without execution is just entertainment. You don't need wealth to look powerful. You need discipline. You need standards. You need ruthless attention to detail. And you need to understand that small things compound into massive signals that determine how you're treated every single day. Start with grooming. This is non-negotiable. Hair cut regularly and maintained. Facial hair, either clean-shaven or deliberately shaped, is never neglected. Nails are clean and trimmed. Teeth brushed, breath managed. Skin basic care, not elaborate, just clean and moisturized. These are baseline requirements. Neglect any of them, and you're broadcasting that you don't have standards, which signals low status. Grooming is visible self-respect. When you're well-groomed, you signal that you value yourself enough to maintain yourself. When you're not, you signal surrender, and people treat you accordingly. The cost of grooming is minimal. The impact is enormous. It's the easiest leverage point available. Next, posture. This might be the highest return investment available because it costs nothing and transforms everything. Stand tall, shoulders back, chest open, head level. Take up space. Move deliberately, not rushed or hesitant. When you sit, sit back. K in the chair. Don't perch on the edge. When you walk, walk with purpose, like you own the ground under your feet. Collapsed posture is a submission signal. It's a biological broadcast that says I'm defeated, I'm no threat, I'm low status. And people respond to it instinctively with dismissal or exploitation. Powerful posture is a dominance signal. It says I'm confident, I belong here, I'm someone to contend with. And people respond with respect and caution. Train yourself to notice when you slouch, when you make yourself small, when you move timidly. Correct it immediately. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your default posture shifts, and with it, the entire tenor of your interactions shifts. People interrupt you less. They listen more carefully. They grant you more authority without you saying a word. Now, clothes. This is where most people get it wrong. They think expensive equals powerful. It doesn't. Fitted, clean, and maintained equals powerful. A cheap shirt that fits well beats an expensive shirt that's wrinkled, and ill-fitting jockers on fit first. Clothes that are too big make you look like a child. Clothes that are too small make you look sloppy. Clothes that fit make you look intentional. Next, cleanliness. Every item you wear should be clean, no stains, no odor, no visible dirt. This seems obvious, but watch people in public. Countless people walk around with visible neglect on their clothes. Each instance broadcasts low standards and kills credibility. Then maintenance. Buttons secure, hems intact, the shoes are clean and in good repair, bags and accessories are not falling apart. These details seem small, but they're visible signals. Each one either adds to or subtracts from your credibility. Handle them all. Color matters. Neutral tones, blacks, grays, navy and white, communicate seriousness and authority. Bright colors and loud patterns can work in specific contexts, but generally, they're harder to pull off and often read as attention-seeking rather than powerful. When in doubt, go neutral and sharp. Shoes are critical. People notice shoes. Dirty, worn out, cheap-looking shoes destroy an otherwise good appearance. Clean, well-maintained shoes in classic styles signal attention to detail and standards. You don't need expensive shoes. You need to maintain your shoes, clean them regularly, replace them before they fall apart. Accessories should be minimal and functional. A decent watch if you wear one, a simple bag or briefcase if needed. Avoid clutter, avoid novelty items, avoid anything that screams, "Look at me." The goal is polish and intentionality, not peacocking. Now, maintenance habits. Create a system. Every night, check your clothes for the next day. Every week, handle grooming. Every month, assess what needs repair or replacement. Make this automatic. The people who look consistently sharp aren't naturally gifted. They have systems. They've made maintenance a non-negotiable part of their routine. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Looking poor is almost always a choice. Not a conscious choice, but a choice nonetheless. It's the result of not prioritizing these details, not maintaining standards, letting things slide because you're tired or busy or convinced it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter. It matters more than almost anything else in determining how you're treated. Most of the signals we've discussed require no money. Posture is free, grooming is cheap, maintenance is discipline. Even clothes, if you shop strategically and focus on basics that fit, don't require wealth. What they require is giving a damn. Caring enough about how you're perceived to put in the effort. And here's where the transformation happens. When you start handling these details, when you show up maintained and sharp consistently, you start to feel different. You stand taller. You speak more clearly. You make eye contact more easily. The external discipline creates an internal shift. You start to embody the person you're presenting. This is how the mask becomes the man. You're not faking confidence when you look sharp and well-maintained. You're building it. Every time you handle the details, every time you show up at your standard, you're programming yourself. You're teaching yourself that you're someone who has standards, someone who competes, someone who matters. The people who dismiss this as superficial are the same people who wonder why opportunities never come. Why is respect never given? Why are they always struggling upstream? They failed to understand that humans are visual creatures who make instant judgments, and those judgments determine everything that follows. You can have substance without style, and you'll be invisible. You can have style without substance, and you'll get far before anyone notices. Ideally, you have both, but if you're starting from nothing, style opens the door. Substance keeps you in the room, but you must get in the room first, and the look is what gets you in. Machiavelli said, "Let no one quote against me the old proverb that he who builds on the people builds on mud." He understood that perception is the foundation, that if you can control how you're perceived, you control outcomes, and perception is controlled through visible signals before anything else. Stop waiting until you have money to look maintained. Look maintained now. Stop waiting until you feel confident to project confidence. Project it now. Stop waiting until you've achieved status to adopt the behaviors of status. Adopt them now, because the behaviors create the reality, not the other way around. This is the final transmutation. You've been taught that poverty is about lack. Lack, oh, F money, lack of opportunity, lack of resources. And while those things are real, they're not primary. They're secondary effects of a primary cause. The primary cause is the signal, the broadcast, the way you present yourself to the world and the automatic judgments that a broadcast trigger. When you look poor, you create a force field that repels exactly what you need. Opportunities sense desperation and flee. Resources flow toward those who look like they already have them. Respect goes to those who demand it through their presence. Access opens to those who look like they belong. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about what should be. This is about what it is. And what is that humans make instant judgments based on visual signals, and those judgments compound into outcomes that seem like fate, but are actually the accumulation of millions of tiny social interactions, each shaped by the signal you sent. So the transformation isn't about getting rich first. It's about breaking the signal that keeps you poor. It's about killing the look of poverty before it kills every opportunity you might have had. And once you kill that look, once you start presenting as someone with standards, someone who competes, someone who matters, the entire game changes. People suddenly see you, they suddenly listen, they suddenly consider you. Not because your skills improved overnight, but because you stopped broadcasting weakness. You removed the automatic rejection trigger. You permitted them to take you seriously by taking yourself seriously first. And here's the beautiful part. Once you break the signal, once you enter the upward spiral, momentum takes over. You get treated better, which builds confidence, which improves your presence, which gets you treated better still. You get opportunities, which build credibility, which attract more opportunities. You develop relationships with higher status people, which raises your status, which attracts even higher status relationships. The death spiral works in reverse, but you must be the one to break the initial pattern. Nobody will do it for you. No one will save you from looking poor. You must save yourself by refusing to broadcast poverty regardless of your bank account. This is the ultimate Machiavellian move, controlling perception to create reality, manufacturing the appearance of power before you have power, which generates actual power, using strategic presentation to force the world to treat you differently, which creates the resources and opportunities you need to become what you've been presenting. The person you are today is largely the result of how you've been treated, and how you've been treated is largely the result of how you've presented yourself. Change the presentation, change the treatment, change the outcome. It's not magic, it's mechanism.
So here's your challenge.
Within the next 24 hours, audit yourself. Look at your grooming, your posture, your clothes, your maintenance, your details. Be ruthlessly honest. Where are you broadcasting poverty? Where are you signaling weakness? Where have you let standards slip because you're tired or busy or defeated? Then fix one thing, just one. Maybe it's getting a haircut. Maybe it's cleaning your shoes. Maybe it's practicing standing tall for 10 minutes. Maybe it's removing one apologetic phrase from your vocabulary. Just one thing, because one thing breaks the pattern. One thing starts the reversal. One thing proves to yourself that you're someone who has standards. Then tomorrow, fix another thing, then another. Build the system. Make maintenance automatic. Make grooming non-negotiable. Make posture your default. Make strategic silence your practice. Piece by piece, signal by signal, you reconstruct how the world sees you. And in reconstructing how the world sees you, you reconstruct who you become. This isn't about pretending. This isn't about being someone you're not. This is about removing the barriers you've unknowingly built between yourself and the life you want. This is about understanding that the game is played on surfaces first, and if you surrender the surface, you surrender everything. Machiavelli's final lesson was this: fortune is the arbiter of half of what we do, but we control the other half. You can't control where you started. You can't control the hand you were dealt. but you can control the signal you send. And that signal determines which doors open and which stay closed. Stop looking poor. Stop broadcasting weakness. Stop signaling that you're not in the game, because every day you walk out looking defeated, you're telling the world to defeat you. Every day you show up, maintained, sharp, intentional, you're telling the world you're competing. And the world responds accordingly. This is not about vanity. This is about survival. This is about understanding that in a world where judgment happens in seconds, those who control their presentation control their fate, and those who surrender their presentation surrender their power. You felt the judgment. You felt the dismissal. You felt what it's like to be invisible, or worse, to be seen as prey. Now you know why. Now you know the mechanism. Now you know what to do about it. So do it. Refuse to look poor. Not because you're ashamed, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you understand that looking poor is a choice you can no longer afford to make, because you understand that your appearance is your first weapon, your primary signal, your entry fee to everything you want. The world is waiting to see if you understand the game, waiting to see if you'll step up or stay down, waiting to see if you'll control your signal or let your signal control you. Show them. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I refuse to look poor. Type it out. Make it real. Commit to the standard. Then go execute. And if this opened your eyes, if this hit differently than anything you've heard before, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. There's a deeper level to all of this. Strategies that can't be shared publicly. Dark psychology principles that most people aren't ready for. That's what the architect level is for. Join if you're serious about power. But right now, today, you have everything you need to start. You don't need money. You don't need permission. You just need to refuse to broadcast poverty. Refuse to signal weakness. Refuse to look like prey. Kill the look of poverty and watch what happens. Watch doors open. Watch respect appear. Watch opportunities materialize. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you learned to speak the language of power. And power always recognizes its own. Now go.